Hi guys, I'm EVM, welcome back. Now this is sort of part 2 of a video that I did a few weeks ago about what is the best electric car you could buy for between £5,000 and £10,000. This is the natural progression from that, of course, and I'm looking at what you can get on the market right now in the UK for between £10,000 and £15,000 at varying increments. As I said in the last video, I would consider an entry-level electric vehicle a used one, because like for like, if you had an e-Golf and a petrol Golf, it is more expensive at the moment for the electric version, but that will change, or rather it is changing. Volkswagen, to use the Golf example, who were traditionally seen, I would say, as a manufacturer that doesn't want to let petrol or diesel go quite yet. They're kind of being forced into EVs. Even the CEO of Volkswagen himself has said that he expects price parity with electric and petrol vehicle production to be achieved in 2025. So it is on its way. Electric cars will get to the same price as their equivalent petrol ones, but not yet. You know, it's the same with any emerging technology. It's more expensive until the economies kick in, until the technology gets more refined, blah, 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 blah. So if you're in the market for an EV between 10 and 15, keep watching, because this is where, for me, it starts to get a little more interesting. There's more choice than the previous video anyway. It's not just Zoes and Leafs, although it mainly is still, if I'm honest. But yeah, this is where you start to get into the more second-gen stuff, the higher range things, sort of, and just more interesting cars. Right, now of course we're going to start at the £10,000 bracket. This one is just over 10 grand, it's 10,250, and to be honest, you could probably get this under £10,000, but this is the best I could find today on the market, and that is a 30 kilowatt hour Ascenta. It's the 2016 and it's done 66,000 miles, just over 10 grand. No battery lease, of course, on this one. And I think that's about right. It actually does state the state of health, which is good, because a lot of car sellers, whether it's private or trade, don't even show you the dash, the 12 bars. This has got 88% state of health, which is 12 bars. I'll explain them in a second. And I think for just over, well, you'll get that for 10 grand, won't you? I think that's a decent price. Now, I mentioned the state of health of the battery. This is specific to the Leaf now. This mentions it's got the full 12 bars and the state of health is 88%, which might seem a little confusing, but the state of health in terms of the 12 bars on the car, that is not a linear graph. It isn't 1/12 of 100% in each bar. The first bar doesn't actually drop until you get to 85% on the Leaf, and then I think it's 80%, I'm going to guess 75%, I've not really looked into it that much. But if you see a Leaf that's got 12 bars, that means it's got above 85% state of health. If it's got 11 bars, then I believe it's between 80 and 85. So I think that's a bit odd. I think that's a bit naughty of Nissan. So something to look out for. Now the next one, £11,000. This is probably not the one I would specifically choose if I had 11 grand to spend on a used EV, but I thought I'd mention this because it is quite fun and quirky. It's purely a city car, really. And it is the Volkswagen e-Up. Now you'll only probably get about 60 to 70 miles of range out of one of these. So yeah, this is a city car. It's pure and simple a city car. It is effectively just a normal Volkswagen Up. Oh, and before anybody mentions the e-Up Yorkshire thing, it's a-Up in Yorkshire, not e-Up, sort of. Ultimately, it's a second car, is this one, isn't it? And for 11 grand, because they do hold the value extremely well, this is a 2015 e-Up and it's £11,000 from a dealer, so you've got all the usual used warranty and whatnot. For a few hundred quid more now, you can get a 2017 Nissan Leaf 30 kilowatt hour Ascenta, very similar to the other one, only this one is newer. So as it stands, this has got about 3 or 4 weeks of warranty left on it. That's warranty on the car, because the Leaf, the 30 kilowatt hour Leafs anyway, come with an 8-year 100,000 mile warranty on the battery, whereas the car itself only comes with a 3-year warranty. But yeah, so for just over 11 grand, you're getting a fully warranted Nissan Leaf. It's a family car. Okay, now we'll move on once more. This, for me, is when it starts to get a little more interesting. You start to get a much bigger range, newer car, and it's just over 12 grand. So 12 grand upwards seems to get you a lot more than 11 grand. As in, you're getting more than £1,000 more in the car. This is my choice for just over £12,000. It's a Renault Zoe, it's a 2017, and it's the 40 kilowatt hour version. Of course, it has a battery lease, which I want to explain more in a bit more detail in a second, because there's a lot of people on the comments in the previous video clearly haven't got it. But this is a car, again, still under warranty. It is late 2017, so it's well under 3 years old. The 40 kilowatt hour version has about 170 odd miles of range on average. I mean, it's basically the same sort of car my brother has, and in the more temperate months, he gets over 200 miles out of that thing without really trying either, not driving ecologically. In winter, 150, 60 miles probably, if if it's really cold and you're hammering the heater. So yeah, just over 12 grand, not 20, just over £12,000 for a car that does close to 200 miles of range. It's a great value car. This is where the battery lease can make sense, and is why I'm going to try and hammer on the fact of how it makes sense and why it makes sense now, again. Now, the common comment I got by quite a few people, that have clearly not got what a battery lease benefits some people, not everyone, is that yes, you will be paying, let's say, £600-700 a year in battery lease, in a subscription, think of it like that. But the car you're buying is not the same price as a fully battery owned car. Several people said, well, I only spend £50-60 a month on petrol now, so the battery leaf means I'm no better off. Well, no, it does, because, and I blame myself for not making this clearer in last video, so I'm going to try and do it a little bit more obvious and clearer in this video. The car you're buying, if it's got a battery lease, it will be about £4,000 or £5,000 cheaper than the price of a fully battery owned car. Now, hopefully that explained it a little bit more clearer, but let me do it again with hand signals. Let's imagine this is the price of a battery leased Zoe, that Zoe there, it's just over £12,000. But you've got £600-700 in battery lease to pay on top of that. Oh no, that negates my fuel savings. No, it doesn't, because a fully battery owned car wouldn't be around £12,000, it would be up here, okay? Went off camera. It would be a lot more expensive. So you're saving £4,000 to £5,000, but you're spending £600-700 a year. You see where I'm going here? And of course, people worry about the batteries. It's always under warranty, is the battery. So there is no worry at all on what is a used car. So this is the difference in price, and then every year it does this. Beep, beep, beep. Every time you pay that battery lease, it goes up. Eventually, you will end up paying more than a fully battery owned car, of course. So I would say that if you're thinking about getting an EV, especially if it's your first, these are the perfect ones to start with, because if you're keeping it a year, maybe two, you're going to be still £2,000-3,000 better off than a fully battery owned car. Depreciation makes that a little bit more difficult to figure out, but ultimately they kind of hold the value about the same as a battery lease to a non-battery lease version. And I should also point out that as of now, there is no more battery lease electric vehicles on the UK market at all, none. Even Renault have stopped doing it with the new upcoming 50 kilowatt hour Zoe. Nissan were the only other company that ever did a battery lease along with Renault, but they stopped doing that a few years ago, and most of the battery leased Leafs have been changed to a fully battery owned car by the dealers, so they're quite rare to find now. And to hammer the point home even more, this is a fully battery owned Zoe for the same price. It's actually £100 dearer. It's a 2015, so it's 2.5 years older, and it's the smaller battery version, the 22, I think it was 22 kilowatt hour version. So you're getting basically half the range. It's 2.5 years older, but you own the battery. Which would you want to go for? The 2015 Zoe or the late 2017 Zoe that has more than double the range for basically the same price? Clearly, if you're going to be keeping the car for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, a battery lease is probably not for you. Moving on, this isn't a car that I would ever probably want to own, given its 60 miles of range and this is a car that's still sold now, to this day. It's a Smart 4.4 2018 electric vehicle from a Mercedes-Benz dealership. As I said, the range is weirdly appalling for something that's sold in 2020, but the people that have them say they really like them, and again, it's purely a city car, a second car, just going to the shops and back, around town, school run, whatever. Well, it's a Smart 4.4 really. I've never been a fan of smart cars, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I thought I'd just mention it just because it is quite quirky and some people like them, but not my cup of tea. Still, in the £12,000 price bracket, this one is £12,700, and this is a rare one. It's also a very efficient small family car. It's the Kia Soul EV. My light has just gone off. See, this is what happens when you do stuff with cheap equipment. There we go. It's a 2016, it's done 40,000 miles, and it'll get about 10 or 15 miles more than a Nissan Leaf 30. Not the best looking car, but to be honest, these are very, very efficient. If there's one thing Kia are very good at, and the e-Niro and the new Soul has proven, is that when Kia do an electric vehicle and they say it does X miles, you almost certainly get that. It's got lots of toys, heated seats, digital radio, all the usual sort of stuff. As I say, it's not the best looking car, but it's a good practical small family car. The face is sort of face that only a mother could love, I think, for me. Let's move above £13,000 now, 13,245. Unfortunately, yes, it's another Leaf. This one, however, is a 2017 Tecna, 30 kilowatt hour, of course. And that means that, for those that don't know, a Tecna is the top spec version of the Leaf. So you've got the leather seats, the Bose sound system, bigger alloy wheels, the all-round kind of CCTV camera thing on the dash, and heated seats, heated steering wheel. Now, I'm not that much of a fan of the Tecna. I think the Ascenta is the sweet spot of the Leaf range, because the leather seats I'm not a big fan of, because it's kind of cheap leather and they're not that comfortable. I don't think they're as comfortable as the cloth ones, but they do look nicer. The Bose sound system, yeah, it sounds a bit better, but it's still not a very good sound system. And they've slapped the subwoofer on the boot floor, as if it's literally bolted to the boot floor. So it makes the boot kind of, well, uneven and unusable to a point. The bigger wheels, and I think wider as well, means it's actually less efficient than the Ascenta in terms of range. Only by about 5 miles, but it is, you know, the extra weight of the leather and stuff. The best Leaf, if you're looking at a 30 kilowatt hour Leaf, is for me the Nissan Leaf Ascenta with the heat pack and the 6.6 kilowatt hour charging option. The charging option was I think it was £1,000 extra at the time, and it means you can charge at the full 32 amps, about 3 or 4 hours for a full charge at home, for example. If you didn't spec that, came with a 3.3 charger, which, as it sounds, is half as fast, so it takes 7 to 8 hours. So if you're wondering why some of them might be more expensive than the others, if it comes with a 6.6, that's probably what it is. Moving to 14 grand now. This is the cheapest one I could find that I would be happy with, and it is a BMW i3. You can get ones under this price, but this is the only one I could find. Well, there were a few at this price actually, but this is where it seems to start price-wise, that comes with a range extender. It's the reason that people bought the i3. For those that don't know what a range extender is, it basically means that if it was spec'd with this, because you can get one without, it has an onboard generator. I think it's a small motorbike engine, I believe, that isn't attached to the wheels. It's a generator. It generates electricity, and it can generate enough to keep the car kind of driving at 50, 60 miles per hour, or another, I think it's 60 miles of range. What that means is that if you turn up at a charger and it's not working, or it's full, it's busy, you think, you know what, I won't bother waiting for the queue or the fact it's not working. I'll just go to the next one, and the range extender will mean I can definitely get there. So on the used market, I would only go for a range extender i3 unless I really knew which one I was going for and what my usage pattern was. It's a great car, don't get me wrong, it's a proper BMW in terms of engineering. You can see where your money's gone. The carbon fibre chassis, most people couldn't give two hoots about, but it does mean you've got a lighter car compared to if they made it out of just normal materials. It is just a 4-seater, and it's got a tiny boot, so it's not exactly a family car. Again, it's probably more of either a first car if you're really lucky, or your first EV, or just a second car in your household. It's got 170 brake horsepower, rear-wheel drive, and it just flies off. I mean, there's not much quicker than this at the traffic light Grand Prix until you get to silly speeds. Now we've hit the top, the last car. This is just shy of £15,000. I'm going to jump back to the Zoe on this one. It's a 40 kilowatt-hour Zoe, similar to the last one, but this one is about, well, it's less than a year old. It's a 2019 40 kilowatt-hour Zoe, battery lease, of course, which is why it is as cheap as it is. This would be around the 20 grand, 19, 20 grand price bracket if it wasn't battery leased. I wouldn't consider that an immensely expensive car. It's bigger than a lot of people think. It's based on the Clio. The boot is roughly the same size as the Ford Focus is, so it's a good sized boot. It's only the kind of the rear bench which stops it being a family car. It's a small family car. I would say it's sort of in between a Fiesta and a Focus in size. So yeah, less than a year old, 7,000-ish miles. I think that is a billy bargain. And yeah, 600-700 quid a year in battery lease, but that is probably still going to be worth £15,000 in another year's time. So yeah, this is effectively almost Zoe's Leafs and a few extras on this one. But it's all, as I said, it's all that was sold at the time. Out of that bunch, I think the Zoe is the best value out of the lot with a lease, because it enables you to get a newer car at a lower price. And then a year later, you can change it, or 2 years later, you can change it and you're still quids in. Now, this is clearly going to be more expensive than a petrol equivalent, but remember, the running costs, if you do enough miles, more than offset the extra cost of the car. And depreciation. If you buy a car for £15,000 like this, and it's worth £13,500 a year later, that's cost you £1,500 in depreciation. If you buy a car that's £10,000, so it's a cheaper car, and you sell it for £8,500 a year later, that's cost you £1,500 in depreciation. It's effectively cost you the same amount of money. Total cost of ownership is something people often ignore. They compare a £500 car with a £15,000 car and wonder why it comes out cheaper. Well, compare apples for apples here, fellas. So yeah, range isn't for everyone with an EV yet. I'm not saying it is, I never did say it was. But if you are in for an EV, this is what is around. Now, obviously, I'm looking forward to the comments, the usual ones. Until you get an electric car that can do 850 miles on a single charge, I'm not interested. Because I'm always driving from Land's End to John O'Groats without stopping at all, which is why I need the 900, 850 mile range car. I never said EVs are for everyone. You don't have to tell me if they don't suit your usage pattern, okay? I don't care if you do 1,000 miles in 2 days and electric cars are useless to you. This isn't for you. You're wrong. You're watching the wrong video. Oh, okay. One of these days I will do a video without making either a social commentary or having some sort of rant, but that day is not today. I've done nearly 70,000 miles in cars that have done, well, less than 100 miles on a single charge. So you can. If you can charge at home, that's an option. And of course, if you've got 2 cars in your house, for me, these are no-brainers. Right, thanks for watching. There's a lot of other videos in my channel, especially related to some of the stuff I've talked to in here. So please have a look in there. Do subscribe, it really helps, as I say. If you do want some cheap-ass merch, then here you go. Some mugs for some mugs. And I'm pretty much done now. Again, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.